say it, but it sounds very much like Groundhog Day. I mean, we've been here for a month. You say the same thing. Russia says the same thing. Can you point to any one thing that suggests Russia is open to real dialogue? Anything practical that suggests they really want to change their action?
Ben, that's not incumbent on us. That's incumbent on Moscow.
So you've seen nothing.
It is true, as you have heard from us. We have not seen concrete, tangible signs of de-escalation. That is what we have continued to convey that we need to see if this dialogue, if this diplomacy is going to bear fruit. But to your question, we are not waiting on signs of de-escalation. We are not sitting on our hands calling for de-escalation, and we are moving forward as quickly and resolutely as we can to proceed down this path of defense and deterrence. Again, this is about defensive steps that we are taking as an alliance, as a NATO alliance, defensive steps that we are taking to shore up the defenses of our partner Ukraine, steps that we are taking to deter a Russian invasion or renewed Russian aggression against Ukraine. Some of that is consistent with the defensive steps that we've taken. Some of that lies in the fact that we've been very clear, not only the United States, but our European allies and others, about the massive costs, economic, financial, and otherwise, that would befall the Russian Federation if an invasion, renewed aggression, were to go forward. You've already seen manifestations of those costs even in advance of the imposition of any new sanctions or authorities on the Russian Federation. We've talked about this before, but the Russian stock market has declined significantly. The value of the ruble has declined significantly. Market participants are growing increasingly pessimistic about the implications of the sanctions and the economic measures that we've talked about were they to go forward. So that, I think, is just a preview of what would transpire were these measures to be fully put into place. So, to recap, that is a question that is best addressed to Moscow. It's incumbent on Moscow to de-escalate. We are not waiting for de-escalation. We are open and prepared to engage, continue to engage in diplomacy, but we are also moving ahead swiftly down the path of defense and deterrence.
There was some confusion about the letter that was received yesterday. A few senior administration officials appeared to say that was the letter from Russia they were expecting. It was reported, and does that suggest that you don't know what's coming in that letter? That well could have been the letter when you first saw it? Why the confusion?
No, there was never an intention to suggest that was the formal response from the Russian Federation. What one of your colleagues reported and what you heard from senior State Department officials yesterday is that we received a follow-up from the Russian Federation. I will leave it to Foreign Minister Lavrov and the Russians to characterize what exactly they intended by that, but Foreign Minister Lavrov spoke to this missive publicly over the weekend, and we understand again today that we'll be receiving a formal response from the Russian Federation once it has been approved by President Putin. Yes?
Can I warn you, though, that in Ben's first question, since tomorrow literally is Groundhog Day, you should expect the same question again.
I may have a similar answer. Yes,
and in which case it would just be
it would be
in keeping
prove
with
the prophecy true. Yes, please.
On TV and Discovery from
Yes.
Poland.
Yes.
Andrea mentioned sanctions, and as diplomacy seems to be going nowhere now, isn't it high time to start strengthening the eastern flank of NATO? And you mentioned Polish Foreign Minister Zbigniew Rau a moment ago. He is coming here tomorrow, and he will be talking about that. And he's also meeting with Secretary Blinken later this week. So could you preview those talks with the Secretary, between the Minister and the Secretary?
So to your first question, isn't it time to strengthen the eastern flank of NATO? The answer is unambiguously yes. We have been talking about that for weeks now. And in fact, we have taken concrete steps, some of which have been announced by the Department of Defense, to place thousands of troops, U.S. service members, at a heightened state of readiness should they be called into service by the North Atlantic Council. We have worked concertedly with our NATO allies, including our allies on the eastern flank, to work with them to prepare for the eventuality, possibility of further Russian aggression. We will continue to take steps to reassure, to reinforce defensive steps NATO's eastern flank, because we agree it is important. When it comes to the Polish foreign minister, as you noted, as I noted earlier, the secretary had an opportunity to speak both with him, with the EU High Representative Josep Borrell, and the NATO Secretary General today. We will continue to engage with our Polish allies, both in the context of the OSCE, and the engagement today was in the foreign minister's role as the chairman in office of the OSCE, but also as a valued and important NATO ally. I don't want to get ahead of those discussions, but this gets back to your question. We will continue to show our support in many different forms for our NATO allies, those on the eastern flank, our NATO allies throughout the continent.
Now, what